Meet Blanca, a woman who is originally from Spain but has moved to London more than 30 years ago. 3 years ago, she decided to go on a journey around the world. Not by foot, not by car, and not by plane, but solo on her bicycle. Hello, Blanca.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm really well. I'm really happy to be here.
I am very happy that you accepted my invitation for this interview. So, Blanca, tell us, you went on a journey on your bicycle.
hmm
What inspired such a journey?
Well, I've always liked traveling and I've always liked exploring the world and meeting new people. And a few years ago, I was on a holiday with one of my daughters and I met an old man. He was 70 and he was traveling on his bicycle. And that put a little idea in my head that that was the perfect way to see the world. And do you know, like sometimes there are ideas that stay with you?
Of course.
That one stayed. And then all my life I have worked for NGOs and charities. And my very last job was for an organization that supported people with cancer. And every day I heard stories about how cancer had changed people's lives, how one day people were okay and healthy, and the next day the whole world had been turned upside down.
Yes.
And that made me think a lot. So there was that. And then I have two daughters I love dearly, dearly. And they're both married and they're both very happy and they had jobs. And I thought, why wait until I retire? Maybe I can retire a little bit earlier and start traveling earlier.
Okay.
So when I was 57, I decided it was time to stop work and set off on my bicycle around the world.
Beautiful. So, do you remember that specific date which you chose to just stop and go on with your journey?
It was in June, the day that I decided to stop. Yes, it was the summer of 2015, because I stopped work at the end of 2015. 2014.
2015.
And it was because a very, very, very good friend of mine was diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And I had already been thinking about it, but when you have something that is so close and so close to your heart, it makes you realize that you need to do things absolutely now. So I think it was about July 2014,
I'm so sorry about your friend.
but she's okay.
Okay, thank God. That's great. So, tell me, how was the reaction of your family towards your journey or your quest?
My colleagues at work thought that was a little bit crazy,
Okay.
that I should really wait until I retired, because you do that. My daughters got very excited because ever since they were very small, we've been traveling together and having adventure holidays
Okay.
very often.
So it's a habit.
They were happy. And I think they were a little bit proud.
Oh.
A mixture of things. They were worried about me and a little bit proud, and they think I'm a bit of a different mum to a normal mum.
Okay. And so did you prepare yourself physically? I mean, did you do any kind of
Physically?
training?
Not really. I've always been very active, and London is a very big city, like Khartoum is, and distances are very long. So I used to go to my work every day on the bicycle. So going to work and coming back, it was about 30 kilometers every day that I did on the bicycle, and I went for walks and hiking at the weekends, but I didn't train specifically for it, because when you go on a very, very long journey, the first few days you just do a few kilometers, and very slowly you get stronger and stronger and stronger, and without realizing after a few months, you can cover quite a distance.
Okay.
So,
You took it one day or one route at a time.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes people think that, being on the road for nearly 3 years, how can you do it? And actually, you don't think that you're going to be on the road for nearly 3 years. You cycling from A to B today, and you have your ordinary life, and then you go from B to C, and you take one day at a time. And when you put all of those days together, one next to the other, before you realize you've done more than 20,000 kilometers.
Astounding. That specifically that number, the 20,000 kilometers. How did you feel when you got to that, let's say, milestone, that 20,000 kilometers?
Do you know what? When I got there and I looked and I thought, I've done 20,000 kilometers. I thought, what? Blanca has done 20,000 kilometers? How did that happen?
More like, when did that happen?
How did it happen? Also, I have a very bad sense of direction. So the number of times that I will start going in a road and think, I'm not going the right way, and then turn around. And when people said, the first chunk of my journey, I cycled between London and Vietnam. And people say, how did you get to Vietnam? I say to people, by pure luck. By absolutely pure luck.
Wow. Must have been crazy. So my question for you is, why did you choose the bicycle?
A bicycle, for me, is the perfect means of transport. Because you can cover quite a distance. You can cover 70 kilometers in one day, which allows you to see quite a lot of the world. But at the same time, you travel very slowly. So you're cycling along on your bicycle, and you can see the butterflies by the side of the road, or you can see the sand across the road, or you can see a camel eating a few leaves. People can wave at you, and sometimes people ask you to stop and have a cup of tea, and it's very, very easy to stop. There is nothing between you and the beautiful world that we live in, and there is nothing between you and the people that you meet along the way. So it makes you very accessible, and you can smell the earth, and you can feel the wind, and you can feel the sun. To me, it's absolutely perfect. And from an environment point of view, I think is the most ecological way of traveling.
Okay. So tell me, Blanca, how many countries have you been to on your bicycle?
I think there are around 28
countries.
different countries.
Most of them on the bicycle, or all of them on
All of them on the bicycle. All of them on the bicycle. I've traveled to other places, but with a backpack or differently. But on the bicycle, cycling on the bicycle, 28.
Wow. So tell me about the challenges you've been through during your journey, during your
I'd say that there are, for me, two different kinds of challenges. One's are the physical challenges of being on the bicycle and having everything around you and carrying the weight and trying to find a place to sleep and trying to find water, and if it's raining, trying to stay dry. And in Sudan is the heat. It's really, really hot, and sometimes your bicycle breaks down and you've got to repair it. So there are all of these practical kind of things, and where am I going to find water, all these day-to-day things. But they're okay, because in a way, when you start a journey like this, you should expect to have those challenges.
certainly.
The challenges that I find the hardest are the emotional challenges. So I've told you I've got two daughters, and like every mother, I love them with all my heart. And to know that I can give them a hug and I can give them a kiss and I can see their faces, sometimes it's incredibly painful. And thank God for the modern world and WhatsApp and Skype, that we can talk to one another or message one another. But not being close to the people that I love is the hardest challenge.
Part.
Yeah.
What about your most remarkable moments in your journey? I mean, things that you believe, or moments and incidences or situations where you think had an everlasting effect on you as a person.
Again, I think there are the two things. One is, I don't know, you're in the middle of nature and you're in this incredible rainforest in Laos, and the cicadas are just making a deafening noise, and it's hot and there is mist coming off the earth, and you stop and you look and you think, oh, this is just so beautiful. Or in the Pamir Mountains, you have the Hindu Kush, 8,000 meters right in front of you, and you think, oh, this is extraordinary. Or the deserts that you have in this country, and I don't know, you feel so close to the beauty of the earth that I often cry, and they make me realize as human beings how tiny we are and how we're part of this wonderful entity which is our planet. And I love that feeling, and I cry. Sometimes the emotion is so big that it doesn't fit inside my body, so I cry. But when I read what I've written in my diary, it's always things to do with people. Those are the things that they're changing me every day. I remember one day I was in Laos, and it was a very steep hill that I was climbing, and there was a little house by the end of the road made of leaves, very poor. They didn't have a floor, naked children running around, and this woman came out of the house. She didn't have any teeth, and she had 2 tiny bananas, and she gave me those bananas, and she pointed at the hill that I had climbed. Then she pointed at the bicycle. Then she pointed at the hill that I still had to climb, and she went like that. And that woman had nothing. And she gave me 2 tiny bananas. And I sat in her yard and I ate the bananas, and we had a hug before I left. And again, it is the enormous generosity of people. In this country, I use petrol, car benzene for my stove. And there are big shortages in the north of the country, enormous queues of cars that had been waiting for hours and hours and hours. And there was a tanker in one of the petrol stations. So I pulled out. All I needed was half a litre, tiny amounts. And this man took my bottle, went to his car, put a rubber pipe inside his tank, and gave me half a litre of petrol so that I could cook my meals in the evening. He had been waiting there for hours. God knows how long more he had to wait. And he gave me half a litre of petrol. And again, I couldn't hug him, but I could have hugged him. I thought, oh, how absolutely wonderful. So to me it's people, and to me it's feeling really close to other human beings, that they change me every single day, and I know they put a big smile in my face.
Beautiful stories. I can only imagine. I am personally quite eager to read your journal if you ever decide to publish it. which I hope you do. I do want to ask you, as a woman, were there any specific challenges that you faced?
You know, they always had to do with my personal safety as a woman, very, very much as a woman. I remember once I'd stop by the side of the road where there were quite a lot of lorry drivers, and
Where was that?
here in Sudan, and I ate some delicious grilled chicken, and my tent was a bit far away from the main bit where everybody was, and I went to my tent, and when I was in my tent, I heard some steps outside the tent, and I don't know if this is just as a woman, but as a woman, my hearing goes really, really sensitive, and I'm trying to constantly identify what the sounds are, and I knew they were the sounds of a person, and then I heard some tapping on my tent, and I stayed very, 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 very still, hoping they would go. And then at one point, the lights of a car, I could see two legs just by my tent, and heard some whispering. And then, of course, I'm always worried about my safety, and I thought, what do I do? And I thought the worst thing that I can do is to wait for somebody with no good intentions to try and get into the tent. So I need to confront them face on. And I came out of the tent and I stood up, because you don't want that power relationship of being low and high. And I tried to make myself as tall as I possibly could. And I just asked, what do you want? And the person muttered a few words, and I just looked at him, and I think my age helps. And I just said, I could be your mama. Go away, just go away. And the person walked away. And I guess everywhere around the world, as women, since we are very, very small, we're constantly told about our personal safety. It's like fear is dripped inside our heads, and it nearly becomes part of our DNA. And I think fear could be an alarm bell, and we need to listen to it, and we need to listen to our instinct. It is very important. But somehow we need to find a balance as women so that fear doesn't control our lives and stop us from doing all of those things that we want to do. Now, I'm 60 and I'm still having to challenge myself about this every day, and I still having to try to control this little monster, which is that fear that is inside me. So it doesn't stop me from experiencing moments like eating 2 bananas in a jar, or having a gorgeous, lovely man giving me some petrol from my cooking. And as women, I think it's something that we need to be aware that that's what's happening within us. Listen to it and really try and control it.
So this brings me to a question I only thought about right now. Did you ever consider having a weapon with you?
No,
Not at all.
not at all, because I think if you have a weapon, it can be turned against you. And I think a weapon can escalate the situation. If you go if you respond aggressively, somebody's going to respond aggressively. And I'm small, so I would never physically. I would never win. So I always try to appeal to the human being, or I always try and say, I can be your mother, or I could be your sister, or a female that they can relate to. and hopefully, if they had bad intentions, they would change their intentions. I'm thinking about getting a whistle because I think that noise, sometimes just blowing a whistle would be enough to deter somebody. So I mustn't go to the souk and try and find a whistle.
Absolutely, I'm gonna come with you, definitely, and find one for you.
Help me find one.
Absolutely. So, Blanca, let me ask you about your purpose in this journey. I mean, do you imagine an end to your journey? Can you imagine an end to it?
Well, I imagine there will be an end that biology imposes on it, because this is quite physically demanding. And I'm not a young woman, and whether I like it or not, every day I will be able to do a little bit less because my body is getting older and older and older. So at one point, I will not be able to do the kind of things that I'm doing. But before then, I'm hoping that my daughters would make me a grandmother. And then that would definitely put an end to at least long journeys. I might go a 1 month here and there.
Okay.
You know, I might do that,
Okay.
but I will become a full-time grandmother.
I
And
think
then I would want to see those little ones grow. And I will be the one buying their first bicycles.
Okay, so you're really excited about that.
I'm very excited. You shouldn't expect, because they might decide not to have children. But I would love to if they did and they made me a grandmother.
Well, I hope everything goes as should be, I'd say.
Thank you.
Yes, I
Thank
hope,
you.
I hope. I would like to ask you one final question. What would be your message to women around the world and to people around the world? A message you've learned throughout this journey, something you want to pass on to others and to the upcoming generations?
Okay. To women, I guess what I would like to say is, we are so strong. They say that we are the weak gender, but really we're not. So to women, I would like to say, follow your hearts. Whatever it is that you want to do, if it is going for a long ride around the world, do that. If it is about being in a particular profession, do that. But, follow your heart, because that's what's going to make you happy. And you can do it. You absolutely, 100,000,000%, you can do it. Because we are strong. And to everybody, what I would say is, what I have learned is, there is not that many differences between us as human beings. There is more that joins us together, that sets us apart. And sometimes I just feel that the powerful want to create gaps between us because we have different faiths, or we have different color, or from a different gender, or a different nationality, or speak different languages, for a million reasons. The powerful seem to want us to focus on what makes us different, and there is way more that makes us the same. That humanity that taps into somebody else's humanity and makes us brothers and sisters in this wonderful planet. Focus on that.
What a heartfelt message. Well, Blanca, thank you so much for this extraordinary interview, and I wish you the best of luck, and definitely going shopping with you after this.
From a whistle.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Okay, so Blanca, this is your baby, let's say. Am I right?
That's my best friend, yes.
So tell us, did you buy it ready-made or did you have to custom make it for your journey?
Well, I actually bought the frame, and then I went to see my friend, who's this 74-year-old bike man who's been working with bicycles since he was 14. And we discussed every single component. We decided those were the brakes I wanted, this type of handlebars. We talk about which pedals, which gears, and one by one we talked about the seat, all the components of the bike, and then we put it together. So it's kind of custom built.
Okay. And I see a lot of metal frames here. So what are these exactly? What do you have here?
These are the racks, and this is where I carry my luggage. So I hang one bag on this side where I keep all my, what I call my bedroom, my sleeping bag and my liners, and then on the other side that is the same, and that's my cupboard with all my clothes, and then I have a big bag on top where I've got my tent and the tools and some bits and pieces, and in the front there is one side here, and from here it hangs another bag where I put my kitchen, and that has my pots and pans and my cooker and a wooden spoon so that I can cook. Same on the other side. And this is my food cupboard where I've got my garlic and my spices and the oil and the tea.
Even though on the road, you still want to have that taste, that
Oh yes.
flavor yet. Wow.
Yeah, you
Okay.
need to eat well.
Of course.
I always say, cars run on petrol. I run on food.
That is a real foodie, people.
And then I have a bag, another bag in here in front, and it's all the important stuff. I have my camera, and I've got my passport, some money, all the important things in here. There you are. This is the bike.
And I see there is a charger over here or a USB
Oh
cable.
yeah. That's very clever. The ball in there is a dynamo that feeds the light, but also feeds this USB plug, so I can charge my devices. But what I normally do is I charge a power bank, and then during the day, and then at night in my tent, I plug the devices to the power bank and I charge a power bank. So I don't need electricity.
Okay. All right. That's quite smart, I have to say.
It's very clever.
Well thought about.
Yeah.
One more part that we have to show the people. You did mention this.
Oh yes, that's precious to me. That's my daughter's made me this. It's in Spanish, and it says, "Enjoy it, Mum, little by little." And in there it says, "Kisses, Emma and Amaya." So sometimes on the road you go lows, and I always look at that, and my daughters are always very, very close to me.
Beautiful. Yeah, such a perfect trinket for such a long journey.
It is
And it's on your bicycle in the center of it.
absolutely like they are in the center of my heart.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, that was Blanca, and this is Fatima. Thank you very much for watching.